Once your community has taken inventory of its assets and historic losses in the community profile, this will serve as a great source of data for conducting various assessments for your community. Whether creating and conducting a hazard risk assessment or a health risk assessment, CHAMPS users have the ability to customize a template that is catered especially for the assessment that needs to be completed. To understand the process that will occur in CHAMPS, here you can see the steps that entail creating and completing an assessment from start to finish. As an example, first the manager at the state or regional level will apply the standard requirement in the Community Profile module to make local users aware of the new standard to be met. Then a template will be developed that will provide authors the ability to complete a guided step-by-step assessment. Then, of course, at the local level, the author will then complete that guided step-by-step assessment, and once completed, this will be submitted to the local administrator for preliminary review. At the local level, this person might be the chair of the local emergency planning committee or another key decision maker to sign off on the document before submittal to the state. Then the assessment will be submitted for review to the CHAMPS manager that is designated for your locality. To continue explaining this process, let's take a look at each step in more detail. To re-emphasize the CHAMPS roles in the Assessments module, all roles will be able to view assessments, while authors and above are able to create, edit, or delete templates. Local administrators, managers, and administrators may review and approve assessments. Keep in mind that authors and local administrators can only create assessments for their localities. Additionally, these roles and the viewer role may only view published assessments for their localities. Here you can see how the screen in CHAMPS will look when you go to enter into the Assessments module. Assessments has two submodules, Assessments Overview and the Assessment Builder. First, we're going to talk about the Assessment Builder, where the template will be created. Now, going along with the steps of the flow diagram we had shown you, first the manager will go in to apply the standard requirement so that localities can see the requirement that needs to be met. In this case, it's conducting a hazard risk assessment. Then in the Assessments Builder, the template will be created following a guided step-by-step process. When the person building the template completes the appropriate steps, this will include various components. So similar to an outline that you might find in a Word document, these include chapters, sections, and questions. There can be multiple chapters, and within each chapter are various sections, and then the author is responsible for completing the questions. So here we're going to show you some of the example type questions that you might see in an assessment. Once the template has been created, it's now the responsibility of the author to complete the assessment through this step-by-step process that the template builder has created. Also, you can add multiple contributors that can edit the document that you've been working on. Here is shown the basic page structure that you would see when you are completing an assessment. There'll be two page tabs, the Assessment Information tab and the Questions Wizard tab. Let's focus in on the questions that you might see in an assessment. First, you'll have some basic questions such as what's the name of the community that the assessment's being completed for, what hazard is it addressing, and then who's the contact and what is their contact information. For a higher level hazard risk assessment, you might see questions that are ranked low, moderate, high, or severe. So this question is asking, what is the probability or chance of the hazard occurring? And based on your knowledge and the historic occurrences that have happened to your community, you would answer this question. The types of risk assessments that you might need to complete will range as far as the detail that the questions address. Then once the author has reached the final step of the assessment process, they will then be prompted to set the status. The status might be in development, which means that it's currently in progress, submitted, which means that the manager or local administrator are currently reviewing the assessment, and then the reviewer will set the assessment as accepted or rejected, and if the assessment has reached the expiration date, it'll then be marked as expired. Once the author has submitted the assessment for review, it's then the responsibility of the local administrator and the manager to review the assessment for completion. And with this, they'll look at each one of the questions. So this screenshot that's here is looking at one of the questions that's part of an assessment. The reviewer will provide comments, sending back to the author any required revisions. They'll also score the response. So in the assessments module, the questions are scaled, so at the end of it, you'll get a final score. Then the review will be marked for each question to show that it's complete. Finally, once the reviewer is done grading the assessment, they'll then mark the assessment as accepted. The results of your assessment will then be used as a basis for developing the plans and action items that will be identified for mitigating against disasters. Once you have requested and gained access to CHAMPS, we encourage you to take advantage of the various training materials that are available to help orient you to the system. Self-guided navigational tutorials have been developed to walk you through each step of the system. Additionally, virtual and hands-on training opportunities are available to you. To see training dates offered, go to www.kym.ky.gov and select the training menu.